All right, so a bit of a different change up here. I'm now using my new laptop, so no longer using the Mac to do the recording. So hopefully there's no hiccups with this. I'm using OBS. That's why I've got this like nice infinite window thing going on. Anyways, I'm just gonna minimize that so it's not wigging everybody out. Okay, so like I promised to two of the classes, Monday didn't hear this, but like I promised, I'm going to record the last lesson in a nice clean environment here because that way we're guaranteed that you'll get the source material that you need in case we run out of time, especially with Monday's class because more than likely we will run out of time and you'll miss this last portion. That being said, though, everything we're going to cover today will be exactly the same as what we've covered with the users, anyways. So there's really no difference there. So hopefully this is just more reinforcing those lessons. Okay, so let's get started. So the first step is we're going to go to Blackboard. I've put the last lesson up in everybody's Blackboard. That's the wrong address. There we go. So I'm just going to choose whatever group because it doesn't matter because they're all there. We're going to go to weekly learning and we're going to choose this last one that says our last lesson. Make sure you review this. So obviously the lesson video isn't in here because I'm recording it, but we're going to click on this. That will download the lesson plan for us. I'm going to go to show in folder. We can see this now is in the downloads directory. If for some reason you don't see this bar down here with the option to show in the folder, then just go to the downloads directory under your quick access. I'm going to right click on it, choose to extract all. And I like to change this address because this path because otherwise it creates a nested directory, which is really stupid. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say click off show extracted because I already have it open anyways. And then I'm going to click extract. And it's going to take a couple seconds to extract. There we go. I'm going to delete whatever files in here I don't need right now. There we go. I have my lesson. There's all my lessons. Okay. So, or there's all my files. So I'm going to copy this. You can just hit Control C as well if you want to. I'm going to navigate to where our lesson files are, which is interesting because I don't think I've actually created the directory yet. Brand new laptop, so just bear with me. So C, WAMP64, www. Yeah, I don't have a COMP-1006 directory, so I'll create that now. And then this is going to be, I'm not even sure what lesson this is actually. Why don't we just call it lesson 06, I guess. And then I'm going to go into here. Oh, wait, I did that wrong. Nope, I want to actually paste my lessons in this root area. There we go. And then I'll just rename this. So rename to lesson 06. There we go. All right, so now I'm ready to open up WAMP. There we go. We've got WAMP running. It's orange. It's green. We're good to go. And let's just make sure. If I go to localhost / comp-1006, I guess it's all in capitals. It doesn't really matter. Windows. Yep, there it is. Lesson 6 directory. Click on it. Everything appears to be working. And that is good. So now Monday's class has not had the lesson where we've actually created the blog, like all the blog posts and stuff like that. This one appears to be missing it too, actually. That's weird. Oh, that's why, because I'm getting an unknown database comp_1006 issue here. All right, because I don't have the database on here yet. Okay, no worries, because some of you have likely missed that as well. So I'm going to go to phpMyAdmin. The default address is always root, or the username I mean is always root. I'm going to click new. I'm going to create the database as COMP-1006. I'm going to change this to UTF-8. General is what I'm looking for, this general CI option. You only need to do this if you're missing your database. All right, and then I'm going to import the database. Now, if any of you have missed that class, we've actually upgraded our database. So definitely import the database that's in those lesson folder, in the lesson folder for lesson 6, the last lesson that we've done, right? The one you just downloaded. All right, go into here, and I want this file right here. And then I'm just going to click go. And it's going to create my lesson. Now, if you've done that and you've clicked go and for some reason you get an error, just remove whatever file, like whatever tables are in here. And you can do that by clicking on the COMP-1006 and then just clicking drop for any tables that are causing a conflict, and then try to do your import again. Now, this database that I've just created here, actually, which I did explain to the other 2 classes, it comes with a couple of user roles for us that are kind of important to know. One is this admin at test.com, which already has the password set to test. You can go ahead and use that for your administrative stuff. So you already have an administrator. And then there's a general user role as well. So if you, I'm not sure where they are though, actually. Is there more than one page? Oh yeah, there's a second page here. Yeah, here they are. So Patty Funk, general at test.com. Again, password, same thing, it'll just be test. So both of those users will be test. All right. So I'm going to log in and see. Well, actually, first let's click blog. See this? See how this is changing, and we're going from localhost to lesson 06. That can happen when you download the files and you haven't set up the configuration, so the links aren't working properly. So I'm going to go and fix that because those links are not correct. In order to do that, I'm going to open up my WAMP, actually, or my folder, my project folder here inside my IDE. So I'm going to go to VS Code. Pin that to the taskbar while I'm at it. All right, and I don't want a welcome screen every time I'm doing something here. All right, so I'm going to go to WAMP, the www directory, and go to COMP-1006, and I'm going to drag this into here. And that will open up all my lessons here. Close that guy off. Go to my config. And sure enough, I'm missing the base path piece that I need in here, which is pointing to that comp-1006 directory. And actually, I think it's /comp-1006. So that'll fix that. So now if I refresh this page, all my links point to the correct location. And when I go to them, they actually show up properly. If you keep getting this translate, you can choose just never translate this site, or you can choose to always translate this site. Totally up to you. If you do that, it will actually translate the Latin that's used, because I just used lorem ipsum, but now you can see that it actually says things. They don't make a lot of sense, but it says things. Okay, so last week with the Tuesday class and the Wednesday class, I went through and we created this blog archives page, which actually shows all of our blog posts. With the Tuesday class, we had time, so we actually created a pagination. So I will definitely make sure I post the pagination part of the lesson to both classes, Mondays and Wednesdays, who missed that, because we're not going to have time to actually encompass this particular part. So not a big deal. Both Tuesday and Wednesday also got to see the addition of comments so that you could actually see comments on a blog post. And we did that show page, obviously, this whole show page here, right? So now you've got all of that. So cool. So now the next step is to actually perform the create, update, and destroy methods on all of our stuff, not just for blog posts, but also for the comments. So all of that is pretty time consuming. That's kind of the reason why I'm doing this like offshoot lesson, because that will help, with all of that type of stuff that we need to do. All right, cool. So everything's kind of in place. Let's log in and make sure that we don't have anything we don't need yet. So we're going to just log in as admin at test.com. Everybody has this, and the password is test. So we'll start off as the administrator. Just makes things nice and easy. So I've already created a link here called Post Management that takes you to archives, and also will take you to after create new, okay, which obviously is going to break because we haven't done anything with this particular page, right? In addition, if you click on any one of these, you're going to have this wonderful little form for the comments so that a new comment can be added. So that will be in there as well. So let's start out with the post management. Oh, look at this. It's translating my stupid whatchamacallit link from post to after. It translated it to after, and it translated my SCM logo to SM. So that logout or that translator thing can be kind of annoying. Okay, so we're gonna do the after create a new, which is not even a thing. All right, so we've got all these errors. Don't care about the errors right now because really we're just going to start the actual creation of the stuff that we need to. Sorry, we're actually going to do our code that we need to write. So we're going to start in posts. Let's go to our ID. We're going to start in posts new.php. That's where we're going to start. And this is where we're going to create the page for our new stuff, right? So first, let's go ahead and include our config file, right? Actually, need to zoom in just a little bit. The screen's kind of small. I'm going to collapse this side here. So step one, include our config file. Okay, so I'm going to write my PHP statement, right? My opening and closing PHP brackets, which by this point, you should understand that you need, in order to execute any actual PHP, you need that opening and closing PHP bracket. Then I'm going to write the include once. Include's going to copy and paste the contents of a file that I pass in here into our page, right? And we'll just use ... We'll use a relative path underscore config.php. What that's going to do is it's going to look inside here. Right now, new is here. The two dots are going to make it go up a directory, which puts it into the lesson 6 folder, and then it's going to find the underscore config.php file, which is here. It's going to open that file, take these contents, and it's literally going to paste it in this line when it goes through and does its parsing. So let's go ahead and add in step 3, which is redirect if not an administrator. No, we'll wait for that. You know what? Because it's so much easier to work on this stuff when you're not logged in than when you are logged. Well, we are logged in, aren't we? Yeah, you know what? Let's just do that. So we're going to write our statement, and we'll just use the helpers that we have in the config. So we'll just say if not admin, because they're the only people allowed to create posts, then redirect, and we'll just send them right back to home, right? Because they're not even supposed to be on this page. So there we go. So if you're not the administrator, you're going home. We could send them back to the posts. Actually, let's do that. Let's send them back to posts because it kind of makes a little sense. There we go. So now they'll go to the post page if they're not supposed to be there. All right, so we have our title for our blog. We've included our header. Now the next step is to include our form, right? And we already included our footer as well, which should seem familiar. All right, so step 3, include our form. So we're going to go PHP, include once, root, /posts, underscore form.php. And that file is coming from the post directory, this form file right here. So now I'm ready to save this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm going to jump over to my browser. And I'm going to hit refresh. And there's still going to be a whole bunch of stuff kind of broken here. Oh no, I guess most of it's okay. That's cool. So now just to add a little bit of flair, I imported Summernote, which is a very cool editor, super easy to use. I'm just using a CDN to pull it in, which will allow you to actually create, nice, colorful HTML specific blog posts. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I put that in there. And the way I did that is under our header in our partials. Here's our header. I added the CDM for Summernote CSS, right? So that's the line there for the CSS. And then in the footer, I added the Summernote JavaScript file. So there's two files. There's the CSS file and the JavaScript file. And then that will add in the Summernote dependencies. And then under our form for posts, at the very, very bottom, you'll see this script tag here. This is what's adding in Summernote. It instantiates Summernote, and then it goes ahead and fixes the toolbar so that only these fields are available in the toolbar. You can basically add everything. If you want to know more, you can just go to Summernote itself. So just type in Summernote. It's the top one. And you can do getting started, and you can learn more about it and how to use it. There's also the deep dive, which is a little bit more of an in-depth documentation. So if there's more you want to do, add more features to it or whatever, you can. You can also plug in your own stuff. So if you wanted to add your own plugin, you can as well. And then they also have plugins available. Like there's a plugin repository somewhere. I can't remember where it is, but there is a plugin repository that you can use as well. All right, so this is Summernote for us. I've already created that for you, but we do have some additional things we need to do under the post form. So go to post form, and we'll do our step 1 through to 5. All right, so we'll start at the top here. So add our config file, and as I've said before, that's super important because our config file contains our root normalization and our base path normalization. So we're not having to fight with, nested directories and stuff like that. It also contains our helpers, like it's where we are actually bringing in our helpers. So very, very important file. There we go. Now, like I said before, only admins can actually create a post, and even though we have it in our new, it's also important to put it into our form because people can navigate to this file. It's a publicly accessible file. They can go to this file directly, so we need to perform logic to stop them from, activating anything from here. So we're going to basically do the same thing. If you are not an admin, we're going to redirect you, you bad person, to base path /posts. You can read them, you just can't write them. There we go. Now we need to also take care of the form data process because what we have currently happening in our create pages is when the user creates an error, we basically take the post content from the form and we send it back to the form page, right? So we capture that inside our header partial up here at the top. And if you don't know what's happening here, then you need to go back through the lessons and watch the lessons. But basically, we capture this variable, which is what we set inside our create with the form data, and then we apply it to this variable here called form data. So all we're doing here is we're going to check to see if the form data value exists, and if it does, then we can use it in our form to pre-populate all of the fields values. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to do PHP, opening and closing tags, $form data equals, and basically we're just going to say you're equal to form data, if it exists, or null. And this or operator is pretty cool because basically what happens is if this is null, undefined, or not even set, like say it just doesn't even exist, then it will immediately take the right side. Otherwise, it will assign off the left side. So that's pretty cool. And then we also need to define an action because we're going to be working with not only the new, so the new side of creating a new post, we also need to work with the idea that they can edit a post. So we're going to create an action on this side that will allow us to distinguish between whether we're editing or whether we're actually creating. So again, we're going to use that question mark thing. So if action is defined, then we'll just assign off action. Otherwise, the action's default will be base path post create.php. So if there's no action defined, then you must be creating, is basically what we're saying here. So now obviously we're going to need another step here because our form doesn't have the action or the method. So we're going to need to make sure we add that. So we're going to do action equals nice PHP inline statement. Make sure you understand what this thing is doing because you will need it when you're in your tests. So make sure you understand that piece. So we're going to say action because that's all we need to do, right? Because we already handled the condition up here. And then we're going to give it a method. And the method will be post. The default method is always get, so we want to make sure we use post. All right, we also need to set this hidden field. So if we have an action, this means that we are likely editing, because if we don't, this is wrong. This is totally wrong logic. We're going to change this logic to if it's set $_get ID, because if we have an ID, then we're editing, right? We've seen that before where we have edit.php question mark ID equals and then a number. That's where that comes from. So we're checking to get the get ID. If we have a get ID, then we are definitely editing, which means this will need a value, okay? And the value we'll give it is $form_data ID. And the reason we can get away with that, oh, actually we need to echo that out properly. There we go. The reason we can get away with that is because the way our logic is going to work, if we have retrieved a post, we will store it in the form data variable up here. So this variable will actually contain that post in it. And then if that's the case, we will have the ID to the post. So we can just go ahead and do this and grab back the post ID. So that gives us that piece. Step 4, add value if there's value in the form data. So we'll do that as well. We're going to run out of room here, so we'll do this. And basically, we're just going to say, oh, actually, it would help if we did value equals, and then quote those. There we go. And basically, we're just going to say either it's the form data and then the name of the field that we're currently in, which is title. And we're able to do that because we named our fields after our column names in the database, or it'll be null. Okay. And then we're going to do again for this one, but this one's going to require a little bit more logic because basically what we need to do is select one of these two if it's already been pre-selected. So the way we do that is we're going to use something called a ternary, which basically takes a condition. So it takes the condition as its first part, then we check the condition, and if it's true, we execute whatever value is here. Otherwise, we execute whatever value is here on the other side of the colon. All right, so the condition we're going to be checking is set $form data status and $form data status. Oh, that needs to be in quotes. Equals draft. So if it equals draft, if it's set and it equals draft, then go ahead and select this one. So we'll say selected. Otherwise, just null. Okay, so let's do that again. So we'll put in our echo statement because selected is an attribute available to options, and if it's selected, then it will immediately, oh, spelled selected wrong. If it's selected, it will immediately select it in the form list. All right, same idea. If it's set $form data status and $form data status is equal to published, question mark, then selected, otherwise null. Oh, I think I accidentally wrote that whole thing inside the condition. There, we're missing that one. Hopefully I wrote that right. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, step 5, pre-populate the value if there's a value in the form data for this text area. The thing I love about this form is it shows you how to set up the default values for all 3 basic types that you're going to wind up with in a form, right? So you've got your general field, you've got your select box, and now you've got a text area. Text area, you can't set a value. There's no value column. The value actually is whatever text you write inside here. So all we have to do is actually spit out the value inside between the 2 tags, between the 2 text area tags. So this will be form data content is the name of the column, or null. So there we go. That's basically it. We've got everything set up in our form. It's all filled out. Now we can jump over to here and hit refresh. Fatal error, cannot use is set on the result of an expression. You can use null not equals instead. So that's on line 30 of our form. Yeah, I knew there was something goofy with how I did this. So it's because that needs to go there, and then this one can come out like that. So then it's not an expression. So it's is set form data status, and form data status equals published, then selected, otherwise null. So now we can go back, refresh, and there we go. We've got our nice form. Okay, so our next step is to be able to post the information from this form, right? And I don't have any HTML. Why don't we go steal some HTML? I'll just go to example.com. I like example.com. And we'll just view the, we'll just inspect. And I'm just going to, is it actually nested at all? Let's check to see if it's nested. Oh, it is. Nice. I'm actually just going to right click on this div, copy out our HTML. I'll come back to our blog, and I'm going to click on this code view, and I'm going to paste it into code view, and then I'll click it again, and you can see that now I've got this nice line with a link and everything else. So my post title is going to be Examples, the King of Examples, and we'll make it a published blog. Doesn't really matter, and we'll submit. So obviously we're on a blank page here. We've gone to post create.php, and just like we've done in the past, basically what we want to do is take our create.php, right? And the first thing we'll do, the absolute first thing we'll do, as we've always done before, is just do a var dump just to make sure that we're actually getting the post data properly. And we certainly are. There's our content. And you can see our content is actually HTML. It's not the nice, pretty page that we saw inside SummerNote. We're actually getting back the HTML itself. We can see the examples, the King of Examples, and we can see published, right? So we've got all the data that we need. So now we can go ahead and actually create our post form. So step 1, as always, include once underscore config.php. This is step 11, but we might as well just take care of it now, because basically all we're going to do is, if you're not an administrator, we'll just redirect you entirely. So same condition that we've basically been writing at this point. So if not admin, redirect to the base path /posts. That's where you're allowed to go. All right, so handle our errors. Okay, doke. So we need obviously a array to put our errors inside. Step 3, validate you have all the required fields. Okay, so we'll actually do a for each loop, and we'll use an inline array. So we'll literally just define the array right here. And for each iterates over the array. So the first time it iterates, it will pass title into the field variable here. And the second time it iterates, it'll pass status into the field variable. Those then become available inside this block. We can check to see if they're actually empty. Oh, I don't know why I wrote status there. Brain's not working today. There we go. And then obviously we want to make it, somewhat human readable. I need to be consistent. Lately I have not been consistent with my quote characters. So that's a space, by the way. There's a space in there. So my first step is to literally take the field and strip out any actual underscores or anything like that. Now this is a little bit on the, unnecessary side because currently neither one of these has any other field with an underscore. But if you do need to beef this up and add more to it, at least you have the logic in here to handle it. All right, formatted. Not two M's, formatted equals UC words. Formatted. So that's just going to basically take our string from here and format it and capitalize out the words to make it more human readable. And then we're just going to literally push this right directly onto the errors array. Actually, that feels kind of silly. Oh no, I guess it doesn't because we're kind of iterating over multiples. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. We'll use string interpolation here. So this variable will actually be evaluated within the string as a required field. There we go. Now we're ready to, under step 4, to actually check to see if there's any errors. So if count $errors is greater than 0, which makes sense because if you have errors, then it will be greater than 0. First, we'll take our form and reassign it to our session form data. Whoops, underscore post. So that means all the values in post will now be assigned to the form data. Then we'll create our error message. And obviously it'll be a danger. And it'll just be equal to errors, which is already an array. And then we'll redirect to the base path. Right back to PHP new. So then if there's any errors, we'll get right back to the new page and we'll have all this data. So let's test that and make sure this, at least these blocks work. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to take my title and leave it empty. And if I hit submit, it should come back and tell me, yep, is a required field. Okay, so we've already got an error because we're not actually seeing the formatted in there. It's just saying is a required field. So our title never actually got passed in. So we're checking to see if it's empty. Oh, that's because we did post field. So that's not what we want. We want $sign field there. Because it's the field that we're editing, not the $sign underscore post that we're editing, right? So that makes sense. All right, let's try that again. Submit. Yeah, title is a required field, which we already knew. So I'll just choose that as an option. Submit. Okay, so we're on this page. Everything is happy. That's why the screen is blank, because we don't have any errors or anything. Now we're on to step 5. Sanitize our data before validating against the database. Well, that makes perfect sense, right? We could do this as a loop if you want. In the code I didn't, but we could do it as a loop. I mean, it really doesn't make a difference. We basically have the same loop up here. We could combine step 3 and step 5 together and actually sanitize directly in here. So as it goes through, it will immediately sanitize. But I think I'll keep it simple just so that you guys aren't confused. So I'll do them as a non-loop, but feel free if you understand to change it up as a challenge. So underscore post, title, filter, sanitize string, and then I'm just going to Alt-Shift down, which will allow me to just do this because they're the same. Even though it's HTML, it's still technically a string. Or sorry, it's status. It's not content, it's status. And those are definitely both strings. Now we want to sanitize the HTML, but it's going to take a little bit more because one of the issues we're going to have is that the HTML can contain any type of characters that's HTML. And basically, we want to allow the user to use HTML. The only thing we don't want to allow them to use is script tags, right? We don't want them putting in JavaScript because that opens us up to cross-site scripting. So what we can do is we're going to sanitize this, but we're not going to use the filter var to sanitize. So we could use filter var, but it would require a little bit more work. This is a little bit simpler. We're going to use something called preg replace. And what preg replace basically does is it looks for a pattern and then replaces the pattern with whatever it is you want to replace it with. So we're going to look for this pattern. So hashtag script dot star question mark. Okay. And then dot star question mark, like so. And then script, and then hashtag is, like so. I'm not sure what the is part is. I think those are flags. Empty quote set, and then the the value that we want to parse. Oops. So basically this regex, the way it reads is it's going to look for script tags. It's going to take any of the attributes that are in the script tag as well, any content between the script tags. If it finds this, it's going to replace it with the post content. So basically it's going to replace it with empty. So it will literally just strip it completely out of our post content string. So that way you can't put any JavaScript in, and we can actually test that as well. Let's just do a var dump $_post here. Okay, we'll save that. We'll go back to this page here, and we'll edit our text in here. So I'm going to go back to example, copy this because I lost it here. Copy outer HTML, Control V, and then I'm going to add a sneaky script tag in that basically just performs an alert. You've been hacked. Oops. There's my sneaky script tag. Now I'm going to click submit. Here's my content. It looks like it's stripped everything out of the content. That kind of stinks. Oh well, it makes perfect sense, I guess. If it strips everything out of the content, then there's no chance of it getting, hacking anything, and they're not going to be able to change anything. So if I go back, I will modify. No, I'm not going to modify that. I'm going to leave that. I like that actually. So it's going to strip everything out of the whole content block, which is okay. That works. It definitely gives us some sanitization. So I'll paste this. Actually, now I'm not getting anything back. I thought I didn't strip that out. That's why. But I didn't have script tags that time. That's weird. Yeah, there's no script tags in here. But it's still actually stripping everything out of the tag. Let's just check what's above it. This probably won't work because we overwrote it. Yeah, we overwrote it. So let's try that again. So both of them are actually getting nothing. That seems doubtful. I'm going to comment this out. I think something else may be actually affecting it. something else is definitely affecting our tag here because we're losing our whole block of content, and I'm not entirely sure why. We had it before. It has to be something else that we've done. So we have our if empty post field, right? So that doesn't even affect content. None of this affects content. The first place we actually affect content is right here. Cool. Let's do a var dump. Let's do a var dump at different locations here. So we'll var dump up here just to make sure that it's not an issue there. So I'm just going to refresh. Nope, they're all getting stripped. Content string is entirely empty every time. That's so interesting because when we first did this, we saw all of the stuff inside the browser here. Maybe it's this guy down here that's just damaging everything I do. We'll refresh. Select that. Control V. Oh, I bet you it's because I'm not going back to code view. So it's not actually holding on to it. That's interesting because I think that's exactly what's happening. That's a bad thing for SummerNote because SummerNote is actually breaking things on us. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening. So here, I'll go back, I'll refresh, and I'll show you what I mean. If I choose examples.com and I hit Control V and I don't click back, I just click submit, I get empty strings. But if I go back, I paste and I click the code view again so it's actually rendered on the screen and I hit submit, now I've got everything I need. So let's take a look at that actually because I want to see the script tag here. So I'm going to go back, write my script tag in. Alert, no, alert, you've been hacked. Go, click the code view. You can see it actually, oh, I see, yeah, so it actually parses it. Just keep that in mind. So it's actually parsed it. So I'm going to hit submit. So here you can see the script tag. There's the script tag. Now the script tag is gone and I have sanitized data. So everything's working nicely. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get rid of these var dumps because we don't need them. There's one gone. If you press Alt and click on each line and then hit Control-Shift-K, it'll remove them for you. Cool, so now we're sanitizing our HTML. So in the end, we actually got there. Yay us. All right, so next, now we're ready to create the post itself. So step 7, create the post. Don't know why step 7's down so far. There we go, step 7, create the post. Okay, so first we're gonna need our SQL, obviously. So we're gonna insert into the post, right? And we can actually type this out on multiple lines, which is good. So insert into post, our fields that we want to tackle. So title, status, content, and user ID. Our values, which will be title as a bound parameter, status as a bound parameter, content as a bound parameter. And then because our user is actually like the author themselves, which will fill our user ID column, is going to be the person currently signed in, which will be that administrator. We're going to just grab their user information. So we're going to grab their user ID. Actually, we don't need that one there. All right, so basically what happens is we have this user ID column, and we need to fill it with a user ID. So we're going to grab it from the logged in user who will be an administrator. That basically helps us take care of the fact that administrators are only allowed to create blog posts under themselves. They can't override this value. This will immediately assign this blog post to them. So that's cool because that means they can't change that. So step 8, include our connection. So we'll do include once root dot includes underscore connect dot php. And then we might as well write our connection variable as well, which will be con equals connect. And that function's coming from the connect.php page. Then we're ready to prepare, bind, and execute. So let's create a statement variable, and we'll do con and prepare our statement and pass it in our SQL. Then we'll bind all our parameters. So that takes the parameter that you want to bind, the value you want to bind to it, and the data type you want to cast it to. And then I'm just going to, because I'm so lazy, I'm going to Alt-Shift 2 more times. Control-D to select those and change those to status. Control-D and change that to content. And there we go. We have everything we need in that scenario. Go ahead and execute. STMT, execute. And the last step that I want to do, I want to actually grab the post ID because when I send the user back, I want to show them the post. So I'm going to do that by creating a variable called post ID, and I'm going to make it equal to con last insert ID, which is a function on PDO that will actually return back the last inserted ID. So the only problem with that I can foresee is if I can get 2 people to submit at the exact same time, am I going to get back the wrong ID just based on timing? I don't think there's any protection against that, so I don't know. So that might not be the best way to deal with that. It might be better to actually query the database, grab back the correct ID based on a query, than trying to rely on the last insert ID. All right, so now we're going to do session flash, send back a nice success message. Success, a couple of square brackets to push this into an array. You have successfully created a new post. Yay, you. Now we're going to redirect. We're going to redirect them to post, show.php, ID equals $post ID. So we'll send them literally back to the post that we want them to look at. And then we'll save it. So cool, we have everything in place. Let's just walk through all of our steps. We've included our config file. We check to see if the user is an admin, and if they're not, we redirect. If you don't know what this thing is doing and you don't know what this thing is doing, you need to cover the video where we talk about building helpers. These are both under authentication helpers. Then we do our handle our errors, right? So we create an empty array. We validate by passing in this array into the for each. This is just an inline for array. And basically each iteration, we take the value and we pass it into field. We check to see if it's empty. We format it. We uppercase the words. And then we send back a nice user-friendly error. If we find any errors, so if any of those create an error, we're going to actually set back a session of form data. So we're going to assign the post to the form data. We're going to create a flash message, and then we're going to redirect back to new. Then we sanitize our data just using the filter var sanitize checks. So this will just basically cast it to a string, so it has no choice but to be a string. Then we're using preg replace, which basically uses a regular expression pattern in order to find this and then replace it with whatever value is in here. And then we have our post content, which is what we're actually evaluating. Then we go through and do our insert into the post. We include our connection script. We prepare our SQL, bind all our parameters, and then execute. And then we have this odd little thing down here that will pull back the last insert ID. So whatever is the last record we inserted, we'll pull back that identifier. And then we can go ahead and say you successfully created a new post, and we redirect the user. So if we go back to our browsers, go back. Yeah, I know we've been hacked. And then we hit submit. Okay, so we've got an error. So it says COMP-1006 post does not exist. So obviously I titled the table wrong on line 71. Yeah, into posts. So it's not on line 71. It's because execute actually covers everything you see from the SQL line all the way down to line 70. Execute is evaluating what this gets turned into after we've prepared it and bound all the parameters. So when we get that error, it actually has to do with either our SQL, our bound parameters that we've done, or maybe we've forgotten to include the SQL into our prepare. We've done something wrong within those lines. So there we go, Control R, continue. Have a syntax violation error. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MariaDB server version for the right syntax to use at line 3 of show.php on line 19. Now, the reason why that's actually giving us an error is because show.php hasn't been created. So that's our next step, because now we've got new form create. Now we're heading to show. Actually, I have created show. Line 3. I don't see any errors. I'm going to modify this a little bit, but that won't do anything. I don't think that will do anything, at least. Oh, I see. Do you see? So ID equals $post ID. I goofed up and did something weird there. So that's actually not getting evaluated. That's the problem. It's the URL that's the issue. Okay, so I'm going to fix that, because that can just stay that way. Under create.php, oh yeah, sure enough, I use single quotes like a numpty. Here we go. Let's change those over. Now it's turned blue, so I know that it's actually working. Control R. Oh yeah, that doesn't work. Let's go create another post. Yes, I know I've been hacked. Post 2. Submit. There we go. And then now we can actually see our nicely formatted HTML here. So we have these edit and delete links down here at the bottom, right? If I click delete, I've got the confirmation in here. If you don't know how to build the confirmation, go back and take a look at the destroy that we did last week with users. So, and I also have an edit link. If I click edit, it's blowing up. I still have it saying create new blog, which is weird. Let's go ahead and create our edit page. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to close these guys off. And I'm going to open up edit.php. And we're going to create our edit page now. So, step 1, yep, you know, same thing we do every time at the top of our files. Include once, underscore config.php. Only admins can edit a post, so that's super easy for us to deal with, right? If not admin, then redirect to the base path /posts, because you're not allowed to be there. Step 8, admins can only edit their own posts. So this is an important concept, because an author should not be able to edit another author's blog posts, because that would be bad. That would be a bad scenario. It's going to cause anger and fear and just all the negative emotions and just, yeah, anyways, moving on. So we're going to basically check to see if the current user, so session user, ID doesn't match the $post user ID. Now we can't do that till we've actually done this step here where we go and fetch the post and deal with all of that stuff. So this is definitely in the wrong spot. We'll also make sure we cast that. And it's not in the wrong spot on purpose. I moved it because I thought I was being smart, but I was being dumb. So I'm going to move this down to below here. And I'm doing that by just holding Alt. That's allowing me to move it down like that. And this can come in like that. All right, so that should be down here, not where it was. So this will bring us back. So if the user, and that's not like that, this is this. If the session user does not match, right? And I don't know why this is in here. I was reading the wrong thing. There we go. Now it brings back into play. Okay, we're going to set a session, flash message, danger equals, you may only edit posts you own, and then redirect them. Base path / posts. So they can't really do anything about that. Okay, so let's do the steps that we should have did first, which is connect to MySQL, obviously. So include once root dot / includes / underscore connect.php, right? Step 3, write, prepare, bind, and execute our SQL. We also need our connection. So $con equals connect. Now we'll write, bind, and prepare our SQL. So $SQL equals select star from posts where ID is equal to :ID. Then we'll write our preparation statement, right? So $stmt equals $con prepare $SQL, right? Now we're ready to bind. So $stmt, bind the parameter. Remember, it's the same value as whatever this placeholder is, needs to go into here. We'll just pass the get ID in directly because we're getting it from the URL. And we're casting it to an integer, so that's our protection. We're basically sanitizing it inline. So $statement, execute this whole wonderful mess. And then we're going to fetch our post as step 4. Post equals $stmt fetch. So that will fetch the post for us, and then we can use the post. Then we need to set the form data as well. So $_session form data, and it's going to be equal to the post value. And that's what will wind up populating the form with our data. Okay, and then we dealt with our administrator. Now we're down here, set the action. Just like we did with the post stuff, like on the form itself, we need to set the action that we want. So we're going to say the action is going to be equal to the base path, only instead of pointing to create, it's going to point to post update.php. So there we go. Now we're into here, we're including our post form and everything else. Everything else is done. This is basically all we needed to do for our edit. So we included our config, we're redirecting if they're not an administrator, we included our connection and connected, went and fetched our post, set our post as our form data, and then we basically check to see if the user is around. If the user is around, then we go ahead and, if the user is not the user they're supposed to be and they're trying to edit somebody else's blog post, then we go ahead and redirect them with an error message. We set our action for the update, and then we load our form, which is happening here. Sorry. There we go. We can refresh. Need to change this from create new blog, because that's kind of weird. So instead of create new blog, it'll be edit blog. Actually, edit post makes more sense. There we go, and it's pre-populated with all of our values. We can see example domain and everything like that, and we can actually even add more information here. So we could say example updated, like so. Updated, there we go. Change this to published. Cool, and submit. And that's going to go to our update.php page, which is our next location as well. So let's go ahead to posts, go to update.php, and go through the steps that we are going to go through, which is include our config file like we've been doing each and every single time. I don't know why I put this on the top of every page. It definitely makes it tedious. There. Okay. Only admins can update a post. Well, we know that. So if you're not the admin, then we're going to redirect you to base path dot slash posts. Step 2, handle our errors. Well, that's just creating our error variable. There we go. Step 3, validate. Basically the same thing we wrote for post, which was an inline validation check, right? There's no real difference between this and the create, actually. As $field. If it's empty, $_post. So if the field is empty, then let's create some formatted strings here. String replace. It's become such muscle memory that every time I write post with square brackets, I write a comment character in it. Or a quote character in it, sorry. You see words. $errors equals our formatted string. Is a required field. Boom. All right. Next step, if there are errors, let the user know. Okay. Good user experience, right? If count $errors is greater than 0, so if there's any errors, then let's set the form data equal to the post. Let's set the flash message the danger one, so that's the error, equal to $errors. And then let's redirect from the base path to posts, edit.php. That's where that should go. So we'll go to edit.php. I need to correct that in my notes actually because I got it wrong. All right, step 5, sanitize our data before validating against the database. And that makes sense. So those are the same 2 post lines that we wrote before, and I'm just done with writing this out. So let's go to post create.php. I'm just going to copy these guys because there's really no reason to do this over and over again. There we go. Sanitize the HTML. Well, we've already written it once, right? Copy it. Paste it. There we go. Include our connection and our defined stuff. Of course. Include once root dot slash includes slash underscore connect.php and create our connection. There we go. Now we're going to prepare bind the ID. So the first step that we're doing here is to actually retrieve the existing post. So we're going to go and grab the existing post, and then we're going to update. Why am I grabbing the existing post actually? Oh, we're grabbing the existing post to make sure it exists, because if it doesn't exist, then we'll return the user back. But we're not only just doing it based on the fact that it exists, we're also basing it on the fact that it exists and the current person who signed in wrote it. Because if they didn't, then they're definitely getting rejected back. So let's do that right now. We're going to say $SQL equals select star from posts. Whoops, don't write that in capitals. Post where ID is equal to :ID and user ID is equal to, and we can literally just write it in line because we own this data, so it's ours, so we know it's protected. Or we hope it is, at least. If it's not, we've got bigger problems. There we go. Now we're ready to write our statement. Then we're ready to bind. And cast to an integer. Then we want to execute it. And then we're going to retrieve the post. And store it because we can use it later on. Next, we want to verify that we have the post. And if we don't, we're going to set the session. Danger. We're going to push a new argument onto it and say, please provide a valid post ID you own. And then we're going to redirect them. So if for some reason this post is not theirs, or if this post doesn't exist, we're going to send them back. Now we're ready to write the SQL to update the post. Update post set, and then I'm going to come down here. So set title equal to placeholder title. Set status equal to placeholder status. Set content equal to placeholder content. Where, in capital letters, where ID equals, and this is the best part because we have the post, we can actually get away with just passing the post ID directly in, so we can just go like so. I don't know why it insists on doing that. $ posts ID that we're getting from this post that we retrieved. So that makes things kind of cool. All right, now we're ready to prepare our SQL and bind it and all that wonderful stuff. So let's create a statement. Prepare $SQL. Then we're going to bind the param $_post title. Let's try to write that like a human being. PDO param string. And all of these are basically the same, so we might as well just Alt-Shift down twice. This is status. This is content. And then I can execute. After all of that is gone through and I'm happy, now I'm ready to do session flash Write my success message as well. And then make it equal to you have successfully created a new post. And then redirect them to the base path. Oh no, I need to use double quotes. Don't want to make that mistake again. PHP ID equals, and again, we'll just pass in the post ID that we already have. There we go. We've updated our users. Let's go over this again. So most of this resembles create. We're getting our config, we're redirecting if they're not the correct administrator, we're checking for errors, making sure all of our stuff that was required has been passed, sending it back with errors if there are any, sanitizing. All of that is basically the same right up to this point where we start to do our connection. It's the same as create. So now it gets a little different. We include our connection, then we select the posts that they want based on the fact that the user ID matches the current logged in user. And that's based on the idea that an administrator can only update or edit their own posts. If it's not theirs, they can't edit it, they can't update it. Then we go ahead and prepare it, we bind it, we execute it, and we fetch the post. We check to see if the post exists. If it doesn't, we redirect. Otherwise, we go ahead and we perform our update. We can get away with doing this because we know that this post data that we've got has been sanitized and double checked. And then we can go ahead and prepare our SQL, bind our 3 parameters, and then execute the statement. After that, we go ahead and redirect back to the show page where the post is with the message that you successfully updated, not created, updated this post. That's better. And then we'll actually see the update on the page itself. So let's go ahead and test that. So let's go back a page. So we've written in post2 -update. We have example updated, and we made it published. So I'm going to hit submit. There we go. We can see that it says example updated, post2 update. If I click edit, we can see that all of our details are correct and this thing is still published, right? So that's cool. We have all of our information. We've got everything we need. Our last bit is to delete. Are you sure you want to delete your own profile? Yes, I am. Oh, no, that's not right. Even that delete statement's wrong, actually. Are you sure you want to delete your own profile? What? No. That's weird. Let's open up the page responsible for that. So that's show.php. That was definitely a copy and paste error. It's down here where we have this on click on line 62. Are you sure you want to delete your own profile? No. Are you sure you want to... let's go back. Are you sure you want to delete this post? That makes more sense. All right. So that's on show.php underneath the posts, okay, on line 62. So I'm going to refresh. Click delete. Are you sure you want to delete this post? Okay. That's going to take me to the destroy page. It's going to pass the ID as a query parameter. Now we're ready to deal with destroying. So under post, open up destroy.php. Deal with destroying our current post. And so a lot of this still is very similar, right, to create, to update and, actually update and create, I would say. So we need to include our config, and I don't know about you, but I'm completely sick of doing these 2 steps that we keep doing. So I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to copy both those lines, go to destroy, and I'm going to put a enter line here, and put a cursor here, tab, and a cursor here, shift tab, there we go, and then I'm going to paste, and that will actually paste them in the 2 separate spots, just because we keep typing it out and it's really just absurd. So include our connection and call our defined function. Okay, so we'll include once root dot slash includes slash underscore connect dot php, and then we'll go $con equals connect. So next we're going to get the post using the user ID and the clause. That way we can guarantee that they're the owner. So we're going to say SQL equals, and this is literally the same code that we just wrote inside update. It's really obnoxious that it does that. Just shoves itself all the way to the far right for no reason. All right, now I'm ready to write my statement. That equals con prepare $SQL, right? That prepares the statement. $statement bind this parameter. And then PDO paramint. $STMT execute. And then we'll store our post because we basically want to make sure that the current user has access to delete this post. We don't want to just destroy the post willy-nilly. We need to be sure that they actually are allowed to destroy this post, right? So we're going to say if not post, meaning you tried to retrieve a post that wasn't yours, or you're trying to delete a post that doesn't even exist. We're going to give them a flash danger. Please provide a valid post you own. And then redirect them. Just redirect them to a totally different website for their absurdity. There we go. Now we're ready to delete the post. So deleting the post, we're going to do a SQL statement. Delete from posts where ID is equal to :ID. Then we're ready to prepare this. Actually, we don't even really need to prepare it because we're going to use the post value we already have. It doesn't make sense to have to go through the whole process of preparing. So what we'll do instead is we will do con query. This is not the way it's written in the notes, but it's the way I'm going to write it. We'll pass in that SQL. Okay. That's it, actually. That's all we have to do. Now we're going to change up this thing because it's not going to be a bound parameter. Instead, it's just going to be the post ID that we just got back. There we go. So we're just literally going to query the SQL. This should execute this for us. And then we have no issue after that. That means it's completely deleted, I think. I might be wrong, actually. We'll find out in a second. Now I'm going to $_session flash. So we're going to send back a successful flash message. You have that's not how you spell have. You have successfully deleted this post. And then we can redirect right back to the base path, right back to posts. All right. I am kind of suspicious this is not going to work. So just because that query I don't think works like that, but we'll check. Oh no, that works. That totally works. So here's our blog archives. You can see our last thing. Everything is working, but we're missing that top post that we originally had, right? So yeah, cool. So now we can edit our posts. We can delete our posts. We can create a new post, right? We have the ability to create a new post. We can basically do everything we need to do with posts. However, we have one more thing. I'm going to go back to Post Management Archives. If I click on this, we have this wonderful form down here that allows you to be able to actually create a comment in regards to the post. Why is this not loading? That's weird. I wonder why that's not loading. If you click function F12, it opens up this console window. And it should tell us if this avatar is broken, but I don't see a broken avatar or anything in here, or even saying that it can't retrieve it. let's try doing a refresh here. We should see the request for it. Nope, I don't even see the request for it. Yeah, something's broken. All right, cool. Let's go see if we can fix that. That's in our form. So we're going to actually take a look at that page anyways. So let's go to comments. So now we're done with posts. So you can go ahead and close posts. Open up the form. Oh, right, because I removed the stuff from it. Sorry, I completely forgot about that. Did it again. Include our config file and redirect if you're not authenticated. Sheesh, it's just extra work. Let's go to our posts. Let's go to our create.php page and just handle this right now. So we'll go grab, oh no, actually, let's go to the post form page because that's probably closer. There we go. I'm going to go to the top here, copy this, go in here, paste it, even though based on how long it took me to do that, I probably could have just wrote it. All right, so now we're going to redirect if you're not authenticated. Not admin, not authenticated. It's because anybody authenticated is allowed to create a comment. So we're going to just say basically, if you are not auth, right, redirect to the base path because we're not even sure how you got there at that point, right? Next, step 11, redirect if the post ID is missing. Oh, that's a good one too, right? So if you didn't pass a post ID, then I'm going to redirect you because how did you even get there? Like, what are you even doing? Do you even lift, bro? Okay, so if not is set. $, post square ID. So this is actually, oh, right. So this is actually coming from the post page because this form is getting included in the post page. Right. Now I'm on the right track here. So I'll show you what I mean. So in posts under show, we have include once comments form that actually checks if you're authenticated here anyways, right? But the idea is we also have a post variable that we created up here in order to populate this form. This form exists under our comments folder. We want to make sure that this post ID exists because if it doesn't, then we can't do anything we need to do. We can't assign off the hidden value so that the comment gets created for that post. So now we're ready to assign our form data if it exists. So that is pretty simple. That's just our standard $form underscore data equals $form underscore data or null, right? We've done that before. Now, users aren't going to have the ability to edit a comment. They're also not going to have the ability to destroy a comment. So once they've written it, it's there. It's written in stone. It's not going anywhere. We're going to set the action as well. Even though the action doesn't really need to be set for this one, because at the end of the day, the action is always one thing. So that's a bit redundant. So let's just get rid of that. So we'll do this step here. Set the image source to the user's avatar. So we can do that because we pulled it back as part of the user's post. But actually, we're doing it based on the logged in user anyways. So we're just going to pull it from the logged in user. So $underscore session user avatar. We don't type that one out that often. There we go. Then the form needs an action and a method, but the method will be post. The action on the form is going to be base path, which will point to comments create.php because we're going to use the create script here. Now step 7, set the post ID. That's super easy. We're going to just set a value equals, and we have post here, even though it doesn't feel like it. This is the one thing I don't like when you're including files and you try to use a variable that you haven't defined. It makes it kind of weird. But anyways, we need this in order to associate this comment with the post, so we're going to have this hidden field. And that's true for any child resource that you're going to be working with. You're always going to need the parent. You're 100% going to need the parent's ID. You're going to need their identifier. Now you may be wondering, well, what about the user ID that also associates with comments? We're actually going to pull that from their session because they can only create a comment under themselves. They won't be able to create a comment under anybody else. So with the title, let's go ahead and add a value. Oops, something goofy happened there. And this is going to be $. No, it's not. It's going to be $form data or null, right? We've written a few of those. Why is word wrap off? Oh, not that it matters. I'll just close that thing. Now we're going to write it in the text area, and you'll remember with the post that we just put it between the text area opening and closing tags. So $post. Nope, stop that. Form data, and this is called comment, I believe. Yeah, because it's the same name as whatever's here. Cool, that's it. That's literally the whole form. Not nearly as long as some of the forms we've written. Let's refresh. They can see their avatar, they have their title, and they have their comment. So left me speechless will be the title. Horrifyingly accurate. There we go. Now I'm going to hit submit. That's going to go to commentscreate.php, and we're now ready to create our commentscreate.php page. So I'm going to open that up. And Control B. So that's comments create.php. Make sure you get it from the correct folder. It'll be blank, so that should be your telltale sign. So include our config. Ugh, no. Let's go to posts, create.php, and grab this guy. There. Oh no, I goofed up. I accidentally hit copy instead of paste. All right. Next, only authenticated users can add posts. That is super easy. So that is if not authenticated, redirect. I'm just going to send you right back to the base path because who knows how you got there. Step 3, validate you have all the required fields. This is the same code that we wrote in create for posts. However, it uses title and comment. So we're literally just going to copy this block and paste it in here and change this from status to comment. There we go. Because that's the only difference. If there are errors, let the user know. Same thing. That's why these things would make very, very good functions, right? Because you're using them so much, they would make a very good function. So we don't want it to go to post new. We want it to actually go to the current page that we're on, right? So we're going to go like this. /post show.php ID equals $_post ID is where it's going to go. And that should be wrapped in curly braces. There. So if they have any errors, they're missing any fields, we're actually just going to send them right back to where they are. Let's just make sure that works because that's a good point to check. So let's go back. Let's take out the left me speechless and hit submit. Oh, we have a PDO error saying syntax error or access violation on line 19 of our show.php page. So when we sent back to the show PHP page, we were missing something. So I wonder what that would be. Those are double quoted. Is it in the URL? Yeah, we're missing the ID. That's the problem. So for some reason, we're missing the ID because I don't think it's actually called that. Let's take a look at our form. Oh, it's called post ID. That's why. So we need to make sure that says post ID and not just ID. So it's post ID. There we go. So now if we go back, refresh, just hit submit. Title is required, comment is required. Okie dokie. Oh, we have a weird error here too. Call span, notice array to string conversion on line 27 of the form. So it's trying to handle something that we're sending back as an array on line 27 of the form. Oh, because we did form data and we didn't actually put in the column. That would help. There we go. Title. Sorry about that. Boom. Fixed. All right. Left me speechless. Burakacha. Submit. Undefined variable errors on line 23. Wow. Just nailing all the errors today. On line 23, errors. Yep, because we definitely need error checking. So let's set errors up here. And then we'll go back, hit Control R, continue, and it should just go blank. Yep, cool. Now we've got everything. All right, step 5, sanitize our data before validating against the database. Yes, obviously we need to sanitize our data. So I'm just going to go to create post because it's the same as this one line here. Actually, both of these are the same, except for it's not status, it'll be content. So we'll do that, paste, and just change this one out to comment. There we go. Did I use comment up here? Yeah, I did. All right, include our connection and call our defined function. All right, include once root dot includes underscore connect dot php. Write, prepare, and bind our SQL to get the post using the user ID and user ID as our clause. So this is the same thing we've done already many times to fetch our post that we're working with. I just don't want to do it again because it just feels tedious. So I'm going to open up the post update because that's where we did it last. I'm going to scroll down to where we have this, and I'm going to copy it. Like so, all 5 lines, the SQL, the statement, and everything else from 54 to 58. I'm going to paste those in place, and then because step 8 is this line, I'm just going to move it down by holding Alt and pressing the down key. So there we go. So I've fetched it where the ID and the user ID is equal to this. This is not post ID, this will be post underscore ID, right? So that takes care of that. I've now got my post. Verify we have a post. Yep, probably wouldn't hurt. We can just copy this here because it's exactly the same, right? So this is coming from the post update page. And I'm going to paste that right here. Cool, so that handles if we don't have a valid post and somehow made it to this page. Now we're ready to write the SQL to create the comment. So I'm going to do that next. $SQL equals insert into comments. Title, comment, user ID, post ID, values, colon title, colon comment. And then the next 2 values are literally hard locked for us. So this one will be $_session user ID, which is the logged in user because they're the only one allowed to make that. And then the next one is the post ID that we just retrieved. So post ID, like so, which is nice because we only have to bind these 2 parameters, just title and comment now, which we'll do next. So we'll create our statement. And then we'll bind our parameters. So title, right? Which will come from post title. And then we'll PDO param string cast that. And then we can just do Alt Shift down, Control D, change that to comment. And then we can go ahead and execute it. And then we're ready to send back our messages. So this is supposed to be up here. All right. Now we're ready to send back the success message. All right, so $_session flash success with not so many S's equals you have successfully created a new comment. Way to go, champ. Redirect to the base path. Posts show.php because we want to just take them right back to the post that we were looking at. $post ID, like so, and then end it. All right, so let's walk through what we did. Step 1, we included our config. Then we checked to see if they're authenticated, because if they're not, they can't make comments. We created our errors, and then we iterated through title and comment and wrote basically a check to see if they were empty. If they were, we formatted it into a human readable string and then added that to errors. Check to see if there were any errors, and if they were, we set our post to our form data, we added our flash danger, and then we went ahead and redirected them with the error message. Sanitized our title and comment, included our connection script, but did not include our connect. So we included connection script, but we missed the connect function. That's why it's always a good idea to go over your code, right? Next, we wrote, prepared, and bound our SQL to get the post using the user ID as our clause. So we went and got our post. We have the user ID as the clause. We have bound this ID clause. We went and got prepare SQL. We got it from the post ID param here. And then we executed. We did a fetch on our post. If there wasn't a post, we redirect with an error telling them they need to please provide a valid post ID. Oh, no, that's not what we want. We want please select a post. That's what it is. Then we insert into comments, title, comment, user ID, and post ID. We only need to bind title and comment because we already own session and we own post. Then we can prepare and bind and execute our SQL, which we did, and then we have our success message back. So we've written this like almost 15 times at this point, so hopefully a lot of this is starting to feel way more familiar than it did. So I'm going to go back, left me speeches, boo-rakatra, hit submit, and syntax error or access violation. You have an error in your SQL syntax that corresponds. Line 7. Doesn't like line 7. Why doesn't it like line 7? If auth redirect base path. Okay, let's dig a little further. Nope, it's not line 7. PHP line 73 is where it actually is. Oh, it has a problem with this. Okay, so insert into comments, title, comment, user ID, and post ID. Values, comment, user ID looks correct, post ID looks correct. So I've had this issue before in one of the other classes, and then it fixed itself after that. It's a quote character that I have that's the problem. So I have a quote character here, and then I have a quote character here. And I think somehow it's passing the quote character or something, and it's breaking. Let's go back. Let's refresh. ASDF, submit. Nope, definitely doesn't like that. I also don't understand why it's using MariaDB, because that's not the database I want to be using. Yeah, because it shoved it onto port 3308. And Maria is using a different port. Yeah, I'll have to fix that later. Okay, so let's go back. Sometimes what can do it is just where things are placed. So let's put this all on one line so that it's not an issue. Plus, it will help us to be able to tell whether or not some of these are wrong. So both of these should be okay because they are definitely numbers, right? So they don't need to be quoted. Oh, I see the problem. We're missing that bracket. That's what the issue was. We're missing the bracket. So I'm going to put these back the way they were. There we go. And I'm going to put the bracket in. There we go. Now it's got that parentheses. So now if I refresh, there we go. And if I scroll down, we can see our comment. But we can't delete it, we can't edit it, and that's fine. So it's locked there for life. And this person can add more comments if they choose to. That's kind of why we made them logged in. Because if they start getting to a point of excessive, we can always just delete them, right? So that's basically everything in a nutshell. We've got everything we need. Kind of exciting that this is all done. Also kind of sad that it's all done. You guys were great. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach to me on Slack, and then I can help you if you need any further support. The project is due next Sunday, actually, so 1 week away, and then we'll be doing our final. Yeah, and there's no extensions on the projects, so make sure you get them in by Sunday. All right, cheers.